I told you gold would be above $2,000 by the end of this week, and we are headed in that direction. What about gold over $2,200 by the end of June? That is my second prediction. We've got some big developments going on right now that will impact the price of silver, will impact the price of gold. Who said gold's second place? And is that a good thing? And we've got another factor we need to talk about, something that nobody else talks about, but we're going to know about, which makes total sense when we look at what's going on in the world and how that will impact the price of silver and gold. Do you feel it? The price of gold and silver could likely skyrocket very, very soon. Think about what's going to happen on June 14th. That's a key date for us investors in gold and silver. That's the day when our good friend Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve is going to tell us his latest moves on interest rates. Everybody thinks they're going to raise rates. I'll make another bold prediction. They will not raise rates on June 14th, and that will cause the price of gold and silver to skyrocket. But I have 5 reasons why they don't need to raise rates. The brakes are already on enough. We've got a lot of doom and gloom. 5 quick doom and gloom points that the Fed will be considering. Number 1, the banks are already constricting credit. They are in big trouble and they are pulling back on money that they're loaning out to the economy. Number 2, do you think maybe we are in a recession or barreling towards one? There's a lagging effect of the record pace of interest rate hikes that the Fed did over the last 16 months, and they are just starting to be felt in the economy right now. Number 3, what about this debt limit? What about this new budget, right? They are pulling back on spending, a little less money going into the economy. What about number 4? When the new debt limit does get increased, the Treasury Department is out of money. They are going to be selling so many bonds. They're going to be sucking money out of the U.S. economy. I heard it said just the other day, foreigners aren't buying U.S. Treasuries. Now it's actually U.S. citizens because the rates are so high. But that will be more dollars getting sucked out of the U.S. economy. What about student loans? Have you thought about that? They just restarted the requirement. Gosh, what a shock that they want people to start paying back their student loans. Even more money getting sucked out of the economy. What about another bonus? Americans don't have any savings left. On average, they've burned through their savings. And a bonus. Americans have a record amount of consumer credit. Credit card balances are at all-time high. If you have less than $5,000 credit card balance, guess what? You're better than average in the United States. People are out of money. The economy doesn't need the Fed to raise rates, and the Fed knows that. And they're also afraid of implications of raising rates even higher. Real quickly, this is so important to understand as well. There's a ton of what are called zombie companies in the United States. I hear numbers like 15 to 20% of companies that basically survived over the last decade or so because of low interest rates. They couldn't have made it without borrowing money to cover their expenses. And now that rates are so much higher, these zombies are being exposed. Kind of like what Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, right, you get to see who's wearing a swimming suit. And there's a lot of companies in the United States that, let's say, aren't wearing an appropriate swimsuit. We got a lot more to talk about regarding silver and gold, but let's just review. Those are the reasons why the Fed won't raise rates. My bold prediction on June 14th, and we will wind up with $2,200 gold by the end of June. But while I have your attention, thank you for being here. Please, it would help the channel if you gave us a thumbs up. Help get the word out. You can always come back to the basement. We offer you camaraderie, friendship, hopefully a little entertainment and education. Please subscribe to the channel. Do you know the little secret? right? Only 0.5%, hardly no money in the world is invested in silver and gold. We are part of an elite crowd. But let me propose this to you. What if the richest country in the world, where hardly anybody owns silver or gold, what if silver and gold suddenly became wildly popular in that country? What do you think that would do to the price? I've got an article here from Zero Hedge stating Americans rank gold as the second best long-term investment. Americans consider gold the second best long-term investment option according to a recent Gallup poll. Gold beat out stocks, bonds, and savings accounts. Very interesting. The perception that gold is the best investment over the long term rose from 15% in 2022 to 26%. That's a big increase in 2023, overtaking stocks at the number 2 spot. World Gold Council senior markets analyst Louise Street had this to say: the number of Americans naming gold as the best long-term investment almost doubled from last year. This despite interest rates climbing to a 16-year high in March. I know it's a little frustrating. We talk about this all the time. We know what's going on with gold. Gold's value proposition. The fact that gold is universally accepted and has been for thousands of years, but most people don't realize it. I don't know about your siblings, your friends, your neighbors. Most people just are not aware of the positive attributes of gold, but it looks like that might be changing. The Gallup poll dovetails with gold demand data. Demand hit an 11-year high in 2022, driven primarily by central bank gold buying and physical gold investment. One more point they make. The World Gold Council research shows Americans recognize gold's long-term value, proposition, and safe haven attributes. According to the World Gold Council, about 2/3 of investors agree that, quote, gold is a good safeguard against periods of political and economic uncertainty. You think we might be having a little bit of that right now? And that the price of gold increases over time. I've got another critical concept we need to understand when it comes to the gold price and the silver price and what's going on in the world. We're going to get to that in 1 second. But before we do that, this whole debt limit situation, right? The financial condition of the United States and how it impacts the price of gold and silver. Think about this, guys. All they're doing is more debt, more debt, more debt, more deficit spending, kicking the can down the road, and the can just isn't moving as far as it used to. Real soon, the Federal Reserve is going to find themselves in a situation, and it might even happen real soon, where they're going to have to decide between letting the system crash and just printing more money, because the money's not going to be out there. There's not going to be enough money to subsidize the U.S. debt without the Fed just printing more and more. And we know that will be rocket fuel for the gold price and the silver price. Now let's touch on this super interesting, critical observation, and I want to know what you think about this. Tell me in the comments below. But things are happening faster and faster, more extreme events. As an example, the banking crisis, right? That was what, 6 weeks ago? It now is just like a bump in the road in the past. Those were 3 out of the 4 largest banks in the history of the country that went belly up. And there's a bunch of other banks that are in very similar financial condition right now. Big events are happening on a more frequent basis, and they're more extreme. That is a symptom of a system that is in extreme stress, and that's what the U.S. financial system is right now. What do you think it means when the big money is accumulating silver, is accumulating gold? All the aforementioned factors are happening in an environment, geopolitically, politically, financially, monetarily, where things are screwed up. And what's the big money doing? We know the central banks of the world are accumulating gold at a pace like no other time in history. We know that silver is being accumulated by the big money from the COMEX, from the LBMA, even from the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Look, when we look at the big picture of what's going on in the world, I think we can rest assured with our investments in silver, gold, and precious metal mining stocks. Go watch a live stream, and I'll see you next time.